So, this evening, I'm playing Interstate 76, which is an old favorite of mine, as a person who likes the southwestern American desert and vintage American muscle cars and funk music. It's a pretty good fit. Built on the MechWarrior 2 engine, heavily modified to accommodate the driving physics that they wanted to do here, but it's a physics-based car combat game with heavy V8 American muscle cars. There are some foreign cars in here too, which is very cool. So predecessor to Vigilante 8 specifically. It was kind of spun off from this. A lot more arcadey. I grew up playing Vigilante 8. I'm this when I got older. Really well voice acted. Cool characters, good story. Yeah, a lot of like very mature themes for, something. The art style makes it look a lot more cartoony than the subject matter is, although it is pretty funny. But it's got a couple of really good voice actors in it. So I'm just going to play just a little bit of it. I'm not going to go too crazy. I should really go to bed, but I don't know. If I go to bed, then it'll be tomorrow, and I'm not sure I'm ready to face tomorrow yet. So I figure I'm going to hop into a facsimile Dodge Charger and bolt some military hardware to the roof and put a couple of dudes in the garbage. This game had a lot of it had a world to it. It really felt like a play. It's an alternate history where oil companies are I think basically paying automotive terrorists to I actually don't remember the exact deal. It's been a while since I've played it. I have been playing Interstate 82, the bizarre sequel though. That game had a soundtrack by Devo, like straight up Mark Mothersbaugh in there, like Jack and Daxter, but it's actual Devo music. It's very interesting. This game's soundtrack was done by a band called Bullmark that was actually put together for this game by, I think, Orion Salazar, who was a bass player in Third Eye Blind. It's a lot of, like, really good funk music with, like, vintage instruments. This Greg Eagles is Taurus. He's the Grim Reaper from the Billy and Mandy. He's great in this. But the soundtrack to this is phenomenal. There's a lot of, like pastiche, like basically like this is just a real Brothers Johnson song with the serial numbers filed off. It's neat. I like this game a lot. It's that genre, car combat. I think car combat's hard to do. Driving games in general are hard to do, but when you do something like car combat, it takes a lot of work to make it feel like you're actually driving a car and have that not be frustrating, because when you've got cars fighting each other, they tend to do a lot of circling and a lot of it's hard to aim a car like a gun unless you make it very easy, in which case it feels more like you're just controlling like Nathan Drake or some sort of like weird spider tank. So this game did a really impressive job of like nailing like the heavy feel of a car, and making the inherent difficulties of that control scheme like interesting and challenging. I like that a lot more than Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal does not like feel fun to me. I'm just gonna do the like arcade mode. Twisted Metal does not feel fun to me. It's too too floaty and arcadey. And also, this is just personally, but I don't really like Twisted Metal's whole sense of humor or deal very much. It's like very junior high edgy. It doesn't do anything for me. Let's do that. Yeah. So, everything that you put on the cars in these games has weight. So a bigger motor is going to be more powerful, but it also is going to affect your handling up front. You have chassis damage and armor damage that you have to manage. And every weapon has finite ammo. If you run out in a level, you're out of bullets. The weapons can all take damage very, very easily. So you have to, as you take damage, you have to pay attention to which sides of your car and which weapons are taking damage, and you have to compensate for that almost by favoring one side over the other. I mean, it's very involved without being completely overwhelmingly dumb, because I don't really like strategy games a whole lot. I don't have the patience for them. But this felt like a good balance to me. I'm clicking right next to the mic. Oh, rename variant. That's actually like a Vauxhall. I think that's an English car. No, Australian car. Anyway, yeah. I really like the presentation of this game, too. There's just a lot of, this kind of yellowed, blueprint paper we're working with. All the menus, I mean, everything is just very, very slick. So I'm only putting one AI driver in here, and there's a way, you can have the camera outside the car. I kind of like to have it inside the car most of the time. You can shut off the headlights, you can shut off the motor. Basically what you do is, let's see, I think I turned the engine off. Yeah, I don't have the volume up, so I can't hear. But you have a radar, there's sort of a radar that will eventually detect when something comes in range. Until then, I like to just hang out. I like just waiting for one dude to roll by, as opposed to doing but I like the big battles too. It's just interesting. Shutting off your motor does serve a purpose. If somebody launches a heat-seeking missile at you, turning off the engine will disrupt the lock-on. You lose the ability, obviously, to move the car, other than light steering and coasting, but it keeps you from getting hit by a missile, which, as you can imagine, is typically detrimental towards almost anyone. This game runs a little bit weird. This is the GOG version of it that I had to do some stuff to get to run, and I don't remember what it was. But as you can see, the sky's moving really fast, like a bad YouTube video from the early 2000s, or something probably similar to that. Oh, see, I wasn't even paying attention. But it just has some odd animation stuff that goes on. It's nothing terrible. It's not like the game looks amazing anyway. Anyway, they'll just keep respawning until I get blown up, which is dope. But there's no, the reticle we have here is just something mounted on the car's hood. You have to compensate for the hood going up and down when you accelerate. That impacts where your bullets go, and it makes it harder to hit smaller cars. Obviously, the bigger a car is, the more weapons it can fit, but the slower it is and the bigger of a target it is. There's a tactics or whatever, the whole thing. Whatever, who cares? I really like just hanging out in this game and its world. It remains very interesting to me, as does Vigilante 8. I thought they were very inspired and goofy. I don't know. Fairly violent concepts that could have been interesting, honestly, on their own, just with the characters and stuff. Not to bring Twisted Metal back up again, but I do not want to watch, the Joker from Twisted Metal and all those other dudes, stand around and talk to each other. And most of this game is the main characters standing around and talking to each other. And they're all very, very well played. Tom Kane, I think, is in this as Skeeter the mechanic. Alright, here he... Oh, and you have to shift... You actually have to shift gears. Every car is an automatic transmission, but you do have to, like, actually shift through, there's only one gas pedal. It's not like you hold down the brake button to reverse, which, if you're used to arcade driving games, will mess you up. Also, if you flip your car over, you're screwed. It does get hard to tell what's going on sometimes, which is why I like to, like, pop out a little bit, give myself some space to work. See, he's, like, he is stuck there. So I'm absolutely, 100%, like, that guy, like, call the devil. He's in hell. And that's a good feeling, especially at the end of a day like this. I don't know. I think there's a way. I don't remember what I gotta hit to get him to do it, but oh yeah. They Might Be Giants lyrics in there. I remember that now. That's how I found out about They Might Be Giants, really. That and Homestar Runner. Because I was like, what's TMBG? But you can talk to Taurus. He's a poet. Jeff Wofford was a writer on this game. That was his name, and he wrote all of Taurus's poems. I follow him on Twitter. He hasn't posted since like 2019. Hopefully he's a cool dude. At least I used to follow him on Twitter. I don't know. There we go. And yeah, it's just a lot. It's neat. You can fire out the car windows with the handgun, which is a neat little thing. It like pierces car armor, so if you manage to get like 5 shots grouped close together, you can just like straight up ventilate a dude's like noggin zone, which is again a very cool feeling. Especially because like I don't know, I have an early 70s Dodge Dart. That was my first car, and I still drive it a lot. And it's dope, but it is like, compared to a modern car, such an incredibly noisy, uncomfortable, dangerous way to get around. And this game really nails that. Like, it's dangerous to get up to high speeds because the cars get squirrely when they turn, and it's very bumpy and unpredictable. It's good. This is a game that's absolutely worth revisiting, and not necessarily all PC games from that era are. Like any sort of earlier 3D stuff, that's dodgy at best. I went back and tried to play Tomb Raider 2 recently, and no offense to Lara Croft, that's a handsome woman, but wow, man, I grew up playing Tomb Raider 2 on a keyboard, much like I'm playing Interstate 76 now, because the idea of trying to get this to work with an Xbox controller makes me want to puke my pants. But I found it unplayable. I don't know how I did it when I was a kid, Some of that stuff just doesn't... Well, when you're a kid, you're a lot more pliable, and you only have what you have to work with. It's not like you can go hop in the car and go buy another game, so you're either going to get good at it or you're not going to play games. My parents, they had Tomb Raider 2, they had Myst. Eventually we expanded, I got Sonic CD and Need for Speed 3, Hot Pursuit. That's another driving game that's got a great atmosphere going, some great electronic music. That's a game as menus I like to just hang out in. This guy might smoke me. I hope he doesn't, mind you. I don't want to get smoked. Nah, it's good, I got him. I don't know if we're in like dire straits here or not, but you can look up there, you can see that like there's some chassis damage going on from the repeated violent impacts. I love that it's called Mr. Damage. There's so much detail work in these games, like all of the weaponry and stuff. I found the PDF file for Interstate 82's manual, and every weapon was listed in there and had like a little story about how it worked and who builds it and stuff, like within the game's fictional universe. It's just rich, and you can tell the people that were making it really liked it and had fun, and they were doing it just because they liked hanging out in the world of the game and making something with that level of detail, and not like how it is now where if you make something, you better have a reference to something else in there so that, you know, the fans get it later or whatever. I like it a lot more this way. Maybe just because it's less demanding.